So New Year's resolution 2025 is to dedicate my workshop time primarily to my model engineering projects. So I've got about 50 years of projects at the current rate, so I need to compress that down to 10 years probably. So if you see me deviating from my New Year's resolution, you can come and give me a kick up the butt, keep me on track. So we're back on the line project. It's been probably 2 years, possibly couldn't be 3 years, could it? I don't know. But anyway, we're going to make some progress. We're off to a shaky start. We've been fighting some indecision, a bit of procrastination, and quite a few senior moments. So that's just workshop life for you. So let's get cracking. So it's been quite a long time since I worked on the line Locomotive. And just to recap, where we finished off was I was assembling the valve gear. So apart from the forward and reverse lever, valve gear is complete. And it seems to work. So I'm not sure if that's forward or reverse, but anyway, that's operating the valves, and there's a lever under here to move it to the opposite direction, and that seems to work. But there is a little bit of chunkiness now and then, but it depends on the position of the actual lever that changes the forward and reverse, because there's nothing holding it in place at the moment. So, but anyway, so push that back. It's looking promising. So the next logical step would be to make the forward and reverse lever and the rod that connects it to the valve gear. So for the forward and reverse lever we need a selector plate, and with reference to the actual drawings for the model, this is what it would look like, and it would bolt to the inside of the frame, but I just don't like it. Just doesn't look right to me anyway. So this is the forward reverse arrangement on the actual drawings for the Loco. It has a lever that pivots above the footplate, and the connection to the valve gear is below the footplate. So something like this. So when you look at a photograph of the actual engine, so this is the footplate here, this is the rail. You can see the valve forward reverse selector frame, if you like, sitting there, so it gives you some idea what it looks like. It's close to the boiler, and you can also see the linkage which goes to the valve gear. So this pivots above the footplate, so it looks as though the pivot point for the lever is probably below the footplate. So anyway, if possible, I'd like to kind of replicate this. So I've done a quick mock-up. So I've got a bracket that I've made. This is just in Obishi. Nice and easy to use, better than balsa wood. So we can put a pivot point below the footplate, if this is the footplate here, and put a lever on. So we'll see what it looks like. So this bracket will have to fix to the frame, and that would be the lever, but unfortunately we've got this connection here on the boiler which is for a clack valve. Now the original engine doesn't have a connection here, and the clack valve will stick out here another ½ an inch or so. So even if I bend this lever, I don't think it's going to work very well. It's too much of a bend to clear ½ an inch sticking out there. It may be quite tricky to get the connection to the valve gear through here and down and past the wheel. The thing is, the boiler is really slightly over scale because the 4-inch tube to make the barrel of the boiler is over scale. If you wanted to make it more scale, you'd have to use a smaller barrel. So anyway, that takes up some of the room. So anyway, this boiler being a little bit bigger in scale takes up some of the clearances you have to get past the wheels and so on. So I'm not happy with that really. Not sure we can manage that. So I had a bit of a think about it. I'll put the foot plate back on, so we'll have to have a bracket under here. But anyway, that's the foot plate. What I was thinking, making a compromise, so something like that. So we have something that resembles the original, but we have a beam across here, so we have a pivot point which is above the foot plate, and then we'd have to have part of the lever go below the floor plate, so the actual connection to the valve gear would be pretty much as per the model drawings, but the lever and the selector plate would be somewhat similar to the original engine, but not exactly the same. So within period, let's say. I think it looks better than what's on the model drawings, but I'm undecided, not sure what to do. Procrastination is setting in. So what I've decided to do is just leave that for a while, let it filter through my brain over time, and have a look at something else. So I thought, well, a smoke box would be something I'd like to get done. So that's what we're going to do. So I like to keep waffle in my videos down to a minimum, but this video is a bit of an exception, so just please bear with me. So on the subject of the smoke box goes above the cylinder block and the valve chest. So here's a view on top of the valve chest, and this is for the 5-inch gauge model. These drawings are for both 3.5-inch and 5-inch gauge, but this is for the 5-inch model. And it shows a steam inlet here. The steam inlet goes on top of a plate which sits on top of the valve chest. So this is the plate. So I dutifully put in the steam inlet here. Okay, so when you look at a section through the smoke box, you can see a hole here which is 1/2 inch. So that is for the exhaust, and that would line up with this hole here. It doesn't show a hole or an opening for the steam inlet. This here I believe is for a snifting valve. So there's no steam inlet in line with the exhaust, which is fine. That corresponds with everything I've seen so far. However, when you look at this drawing, which is specifically for the 5-inch gauge, it does show the inlet going through the smoke box in line with the exhaust. So that's different to what I've done. So that's a bit annoying. So there's lots of contradiction in the drawings. Anyway, the other problem is this actually shows the nut connecting the exhaust pipe going through the smoke box. Well, how is that supposed to work? Because you need to screw that down. That's silver soldered into the nut, and it's got a bend in it. So the orientation has to take down to the correct orientation. When the exhaust goes through here, it pulls a vacuum. So the vacuum is to draw air through the fire, through the fire tubes. So this needs to be relatively airtight. Otherwise you won't get the vacuum that you require. So that's not very good really. I mean, that's just a real mess. So I'm going to have to do something different. 101.73. $101.86. Okay, we'll settle for that. Okay, so I've actually got a corner radius milling cutter in there, so I'm just going to use that to create a 1mm radius on this corner. Okay, let's see if it fits. See a couple of high spots there, maybe there. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Nice. Can I get it off? That's another question. Okay, so this just needs facing off and boring out from this side. So I'll just do it off camera, it's just basic turning. So what on earth is going on here? Well, unfortunately we've had another senior moment. So when I was looking at the plans, I determined that I need to put a recess in here, the diameter of the boiler by 1/2 inch deep, so it would have a ridge or a shoulder to go up against. It's nice and square when it was pushed on there. Unfortunately, I totally forgot that when I did the layout, I was supposed to make this actually 18mm deep, or nearly 3/4 of an inch, because the layout that I did works out slightly different from the actual drawings. So anyway, as a result, the front of the smoke box is about 1/4 inch or 6mm too far forward. It needs to line up with the valve chest, so it actually sticks past it, so that's no good. So I've managed to bore out an extra 2mm, so it means I've got to take 4.5mm off here, so it's a bit tricky. I can do that without affecting the integrity of the boiler. So to aid the process, I've just quickly knocked up a bit of a structure to hold the boiler nice and securely, and I managed to find an aluminium ring which I bored out and slit, so I can push it in there and strap it up nice and tight. Fortunately don't have a circlip that fits, so I'm relying on this nylon strap, but I think it'll be okay. So anyway, it's nice and secure for me to use a hacksaw to take that off now. So we'll give it a go. There's actually about 1.5 millimeters behind the valve chest, but there is a plate to go on the front of here anyway, so by the time I get that on it'll be more or less flush. So that's looking pretty good. So the Smokebox is centralised on the rotary table, and the machine axis is in line with the rotary table axis. It's set at the right height. So I've got two lines scribed on the Smokebox, which are references for fixing on the side plates in the future operation. So I'm just going to line one of those lines up. There's one there, with a point I've put into the spindle. And I need a mirror to see. Turn through 90 degrees. This will be the steam chest side, so I want a 45mm hole in here, or 1.75". I'm going to start off with a 33mm, about 1.25" annular cutter. So I was going to make this the chimney side, and I was going to put a hole in 32 diameter. The chimney's 1 inch diameter, but it's tapered at the bottom. But this is a 33 cutter, so 33, 32. May as well just go 33. So we'll make the other side that I've already done at 33, we'll make that the chimney side, and we'll make this the smoke box side. So that's the two bores done. While I've got it on here, I'm going to just drill it for the snifting valve. So this is a 1/4 inch drill. So we need to make provision for adding some smoke box sides to come down here. I'm going to use this sheet material, which is 1.2mm thick. So I've got the cutter lined up. So I've got the edge of the cutter lined up against the centre liner scribed on here. So we just need to touch on, go down 1.2 and take the cutter along there. Yeah, looks good. Okay, I'll just do the other side off camera. I've been a bit busy off camera. So this is the base for the smoke box. I suppose you could call it a smoke box manifold. I've also made the exhaust pipe, which screws in. Got a hex on the bottom just to tighten it up. I've also made the steam header, which fits on there. So that would go in the base of the smoke box, so it looks something like that. Whoops! Because the steam chest is at an angle of 5 degrees, we need to put an angle on here of 5 degrees. So I've got a 1, 2, 3 block. I've made up a stud that screws into there. So it's a 1/2 inch 32 TPI. And I'll put a washer and nut on there. As it's only got one bolt to hold it together for machining, I'm going to put some double-sided tape under here to give it a bit more grip. Looks good. So I've got the boiler lined up with the chassis. And I've got it all assembled in place. So the idea is to put in two M5 bolts through here to clamp this Smokebox manifold to the steam chest. Well, I've turned up a bar to check the alignment, so I can just put the level on there and check that that's and set that to 0. Bar in. Make sure everything's in place. Check that it's perpendicular. So I've actually got some hot glue sheet under here between the two mating surfaces, so I'm going to glue the manifold onto the steam chest so that I can then go ahead and drill it for the bolts. So we'll give that a warm up. Okay then, we'll see if that glue's worked. Oh, there we go. So here it's got a pretty good hold. I finished the drilling off camera and I've separated the two parts. I made some studs to fit into here, so I lock these in with probably some Boss White sealant later on. I'll need to put a gasket in here, but for the meantime we'll just put it together. So two M5 nuts go on. Steam header. I've I've also made up a distance piece that screws into the cylinder. I've put in a couple of O-ring seals. So this separates the exhaust steam from the inlet steam. Okay then, so that's everything in place. So the idea is that this manifold block would be fixed to the smoke box. I think I may just do that with some high temperature Loctite. This is going to get pretty hot, but I have in the past used high temperature Loctite and then applied heat to try and separate the parts, and it wasn't possible. So anyway, so the idea anyway would be that the block would be fixed to the smoke box, and if the boiler needed to be removed, it would be a case of taking the two nuts off, and the whole assembly, including all the pipework, the superheaters and everything, would just remain connected, and the whole lot would just come off and separate from the steam chest. So that's the idea anyway. So I think it's looking pretty good. Quite like that arrangement.